Today's top picks on Reuters Breaking Views. BHP Billiton replaces its CEO as the mining industry enters an era of austerity. And money printing, well, it may have saved the entire global capitalist system from itself, but is it really a good idea? Joining me now is Reuters Breaking Views economics editor Edward Hadas. Edward, let's start with BHP. Now, outgoing chief executive Marius Klopper, you say he'll be a hard act to follow, but a 43% slump in profit last year doesn't sound like the incoming guy would want to follow that.
Well, you wouldn't want to follow every single part of his record, including last year's fall. But if you look at the record that Kloppers has since he took over, in terms of the return for shareholders, it's been very good. It's been better than its peers. They've been able to get a lot of cash back to shareholders. And even more important, he's been the industry leader in terms of discipline for capital spending. And while he has had some luck on his side, he's had a very good, strong market, and he's also had several mergers that might not have worked out be disapproved on competitive grounds. He has been, his record overall as sort of an inspirational leader has been quite good. So
if he's going what seems to be just on the back of last year's sort of sore thumb, if you like, of earnings, surely his previous record would stand up. Why is he going so early?
Well, that's a good question why he's going. It's been announced, so we can't really say there's anything sudden, unlike several of his peers in the industry. But I think, in a way, this really marks the end of an era in this industry. We've lost the bosses of most of the large miners, and then Xstrata has been merged with Glencore. We had a period of unexpected, very high growth, propelled largely by growth in Asia, especially in China. Growth in demand, and while Chinese growth isn't slowing, in a sense, the really, really good years are probably over. The next guy at all of these companies, the next person at all of these companies, is going to have a sort of more of a struggle to push through growth than the last ones.
But really, I mean, if China holds up 7-8% growth, the global economy sort of recovers slowly, and you avoid any of the disastrous M&A deals that befell Rio Tinto, you can't really fail, can he?
Failure would be difficult if we have that economic backdrop. There's also the question of whether prices will stay as high even if Chinese growth remains where it is, because they've been helped by financial levels. But it's a lot more pleasant to run a company when you have an unexpected good news than when you have expected good news and the possibility of too much expansion of capacity, which could cut down prices. So I would have rather reigned in the last 5 years than in the next.
Okay, let's talk about money printing, QE. As I said in the intro there, I mean, essentially, let's make no bones about it, it prevented a global depression. But your piece today, not your piece personally, but the Breaking Views piece says that it may not be a good idea. Yeah,
we've had a to and fro. I wrote a piece saying that this idea that money printing should basically be a standard part of the repertoire of central banks was a good idea. It was an idea that Adair Turner brought up. It's been around in one way or another since the 1940s. And I published a riposte today from my colleague Olaf Storbuck saying it's a disastrous idea and should be kept back for the most extreme circumstances. And the argument is whether when central banks print money, whether what they do is actually eventually give in to inflationary impulses and the money system goes
haywire. Where are
haywire.
The inflationary impulses?
Right now,
where are they?
Right now there doesn't seem to be any, and so the people who are worried about money printing, like my colleague, are on the defensive, and people who think it's basically a good idea, like me, are triumphant. But I have to admit that if you don't have the restraint of the debt markets, if you don't have the idea of central banks thinking we don't really want to be printing money, we want to let the financial system generate its own growth that goes along with the economy, then the risk of inflation, the risk of irresponsible policy has to be somewhat increased. So it's a lively argument. I think it's a very helpful argument to have both sides of it, especially after the central banks did so badly in preventing the last crisis and have not been able to do a brilliant job. As you said, they've done a great job of preventing depression, but they certainly haven't been able to propel growth up to the levels that people would like to see.
Well, they can't do it all on their own.
No. In fact, if anyone has a remedy that will make the economy start growing rapidly and get rid of the excess debts and stabilize exchange rates, please write me.
Okay. You heard that, viewers. Get in touch with Edward. Edward, thank you very much. That was Reuters Breaking Views, Edward Hadas. And for more agenda-setting financial insight, do watch our US Breaking Views show every day, 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 GMT. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.